What's going on, guys? TacTixHD here, bringing you my 2021 NHL mock draft. I know it's pretty early for this, but I figured it would just be fun to kind of take a look ahead and just guess where these guys are going to go. This is probably one of the most open drafts ever. I think, going into this year was already quite wide open. No one really knew who was going to go first overall, and then with all the seasons being canceled, just made it even crazier. So, we actually start off here with a draft lottery, and as you can see, the New York Rangers there are picking first overall. Edmonton jumps up 8 spots to pick second overall, and Detroit there bringing up the rear at third overall. Ottawa drops 3 to 4th. You can see Seattle's added. They're dropping 2 to 5. Arizona's also on this list. You can see they're picking number 9, but their pick is forfeited, so not really sure how their pick's going to work in terms of the draft lottery, but for the mock draft, I'm simply removing them. So Chicago will jump up to the 9th spot, San Jose 10, so on and so forth. Now, like I mentioned, guys, this draft is completely wide open. This time last year, I would say the consensus number 1 overall pick was probably Aatu Raty, and since then, he's honestly dropped out of the top 10. There's still some people that have him in the top 10, but he's lower, like, 8 to 10 range, and a lot of people have him outside of that. Then in terms of the first overall pick, you have names out there like Owen Power, Brandt Clarke, Guenther, Beniers, even a guy like Simon Edvinsson. So there's like literally a handful of guys that could go first overall. Really no one knows. I think this is like the first draft in a long time where it's just been, completely wide open. I'm just going to kind of give you guys my best guess here of what's going to happen. Now, one thing I should mention too, you'll see I have this draft taking place in Seattle. We actually don't even have a draft location yet, but of course the expansion drafts this year, that'll be taking place in Seattle, so maybe they'll just try and, kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Also do the NHL Entry Draft there. So with the first pick, the New York Rangers, I can't believe in my draft lottery they get back-to-back first overall picks. Last year taking Alexis Lafreniere. This year I have them taking Owen Power. I mentioned how, the first overall pick is wide open. A handful of guys could go first overall. The consensus seems to be that Owen Power is the most likely, but even still, if someone offered you odds like, the field versus Power, you definitely take the field. You can see right here, looking at all the different scout rankings, he's ranked anywhere from the first pick to the 3rd pick, so that's pretty good. If you guys are wondering, I'm using Elite Prospects to do this. Big defenseman, you can see 6'5" already at 18 years old, plays for Michigan. He's actually, quite young already to be playing his freshman year of college. Playing pretty good there too, 12 points in 16 games as a defenseman. Michigan's just loaded with talent this year. He's actually the first of 4 Michigan players who are going to be going in the top 10 of this draft, which is pretty insane. So, the Rangers here, they get a potential number 1 defenseman for the future to go along with Lafreniere. Of course, they got Capo Caco, 2nd overall 2 years ago. If they can't rebuild with all of that, plus Zibanejad, Panarin, all those guys, Shesterkin and net, I don't even know. Now, will Rangers end up with the first overall pick? Probably not. But obviously, you just have to work with what we have here. Now, the 2nd overall pick, we have the Edmonton Oilers jumping up 8 spots there to the 2nd pick. For Edmonton's sake, I really hope they're not picking 2nd overall. But if they do, I have them taking another defenseman here in Brandt Clarke. I'd say him and Owen Power seem to be kind of the 1-2 consensus. You can see, just like Owen Power, Clarke here in the scouting ranks is not lower than 3, outside of Bob McKenzie, who has him ranked at number 5, which I thought was quite interesting. Most people have him either 1 or 2. You can see he's a Canadian defenseman as well, just like Owen Power. He's playing for the Barrie Colts in the OHL. Right now he's actually on loan, playing in the Swiss League, I believe, the Slovakian League. Not doing the best there, 2 points, 10 games, but with the Colts, he had 38 points in 57 games. He's a good, smooth skating defenseman, not quite as big as Power, but still, has that top-tier defenseman potential for sure. So if Edmonton were to get him, add him to Broberg, Bouchard, I think that future defensive core looks very, very solid. Now after him at number 3, we have the Detroit Red Wings, and I have them taking Matthew Beniers. So he's a guy that's jumped up quite a bit recently, and a big part of that is his play at the World Juniors. He was actually on the 2nd line for the Americans, centering both Matthew Boldy and Cole Caulfield. So he's playing alongside a couple of really good players who are actually both 2 years older than him. They were taking the 2019 draft, and he held his own there as a guy, like I said, who's 2 years younger. Also playing for Michigan right now. You guys can see he's got 13 points in 14 games, almost a point per game. The big thing with him is he's got a really well-rounded game, really no weak points. So they say he's not as flashy as some other guys in this draft, but just really no holes, good all-around player. You can see Bob McKenzie there has him ranked at number 4, and then his scouting rank honestly is all over the place though, anywhere from 7 to 18. So like I said, this draft class is really wide open, but he seems to be a guy that's really on the rise lately, so could definitely see Detroit taking him. Now next year, number 4, guys, we have the Ottawa Senators taking Guenther. Like I say, he's another guy that some people think could go first overall, but definitely a bit more of an outside chance than Power or Clarke. Now, Guenther, I think, is one of the fastest players in this draft. He's a forward for the Edmonton Oilers Kings. Very offensively skilled, and like I said, I think his main attribute is definitely his speed. You can see last year he had 59 points in 58 games playing for the Oil Kings, and currently he has 5 points in 4 games on loan playing in the AJHL. So I think he's a really good complement to the Ottawa Senators. You get a future first line of, say, Guenther, Tim Stützle, and Brady Tkachuk, I think would be pretty nasty. I feel like their defensive core is already pretty solid with Chabot, Brandstrom, Sanderson, and Bernard Docker. So I think it makes a lot of sense for the Senators to take him here. Also, I should mention his scouting ranks anywhere from 3 to 12, with Bob McKenzie actually being the highest on him. Now, next number 5 with the Seattle Kraken making their first pick as a franchise. And I feel like they're going to kind of swing for the fences here and take Kent Johnson, another Michigan player who's also Canadian, just like Owen Power. And he's actually from the Vancouver area, so not too far away from Seattle. I think he's got a very, very high ceiling. He's one of the more skilled players in the draft. As I mentioned, Beniers, I think, is a bit more of a well-rounded player, but Johnson's definitely a bit more offensive. As a freshman playing for Michigan, he's currently got 18 points, 16 games. His last year at the BCHL, he was averaging basically 2 points a game, which is pretty ridiculous. Just a very good offensive player. I feel like if you're a new team, new franchise like Seattle, why not take a swing for the fences? Why not take a guy like Johnson, who could be a fantastic playmaker in the NHL, potentially a first-line center? You can see his ranking here anywhere from 5 to 12, but pretty much everyone has him inside the top 10. Some people even have him inside the top 5. So I think Kent Johnson for Seattle, really good first pick there as a franchise. Now next to number 6, Vancouver Canucks. I feel like if this guy's available, it's going to be tough for them not to take him. I have them drafting Luke Hughes. They already have his brother Quinn. Why not try and unite these two brothers on defense? So Luke Hughes isn't playing for Michigan right now, but he's actually committed to Michigan for next season, the 2021-2022 season, which is pretty insane. Like, if my mock actually were to happen, you'd have 4 Michigan players going in the top 6, which I think is unheard of for a college team. Like, I can't think of a single time when a single college had 4 players taken inside the top 6. That would just be remarkable. So Luke Hughes here, ranked number 10 by Bob McKenzie, anywhere from 2 to 8 there by the scouts, but quite high, as a lot of people, I think, compare him to Quinn Hughes. I don't think he's going to be quite as good as his brother. Doesn't have quite the high ceiling, but I think his floor is quite similar. He's a good offensive defenseman, good puck-moving defenseman. You can see on the under-18 national team, 26 points, 25 games. Point per game. He's actually the biggest of the Hughes brothers, already 6'2" there at 17. Got a bit of a later birthday, September 9th, 2003, so one of the younger players in this draft, but I think, honestly, a very, very good pick there for Canucks, or whoever takes them in the top 10. And next up with the number 7 pick with the Nashville Predators, and we know they really like their defense, and there's a couple of really good ones still available at this point in the draft. I'm going to have them taking Carson Lambos. He's a solid defenseman in the WHL, who's kind of ranked all over the place. You guys can see here anywhere from 2 all the way down to 21, but majority of scouts have him in the top 5, which is why it was very surprising to me to see McKenzie rank him at 17. I feel like he's almost for sure going to go in the top 10, but again, this draft's just so wide open, you really don't know what's going to happen. So last year playing for the Winnipeg Ice, he had 32 points in 57 games. Right now, playing over in Finnish League in the under-20 team, he's got 11 points in 13 games, which for a defenseman I think is very impressive. He's a two-way guy, so he's still pretty sound defensively. He's pretty big there, 6'1", 200, obviously only 18, can continue to grow. So I think Nashville makes a really nice pick here. And with the pick right after them, I have the Buffalo Sabres taking the other defenseman still available, Simon Edvinsson here with the 8th pick. He's a solid, big Swedish defenseman, playing for Frölunda in the SHL, so he's already playing against men. You can see 6'4", 185 at 17. That's a big defenseman for sure. Bob McKenzie actually has him ranked 2, so dropping all the way down to number 8 I think would definitely be a fall for him, but again, with kind of where all the rankings are at, someone's going to have to fall, or, quote-unquote fall. I was looking at here, based on Bob McKenzie's rankings, he's falling to 8, but if you look at, say, elite prospects, he's actually getting picked a little bit early since they have him ranked at 12. So this draft's just all over the place. Very technically skilled defenseman, good skater and mobile, strong in his own end, poised, smooth. Again, just a solid defenseman. I think the fact he's already playing against men in the SHL is a good thing for him. Now, not doing too great. He's only got a point in 10 games, but the younger guys usually don't play that much in the SHL, so it's definitely a lot harder to kind of judge their talent level based on that. But I think he should turn out to be a solid defenseman in the NHL, at least a top 4, maybe even a top pairing guy. I mean, Buffalo could have him and Dahlin as their top pair. Swedish connection, I think that could be pretty sick. Now, next up at number 9 here with the Chicago Blackhawks, and remember, this would have been the Arizona pick, but they forfeited it, so it goes to Chicago, and I have them taking a kind of risky pick here, taking Jesper Wallstedt, without a doubt the top-ranked goalie in this draft class. Speaking of just kind of how wide open this draft class is, a year ago or so, I saw people saying he could go first overall, and I think with him, although I say it's a risky pick, because the other players, you really don't know, who's going to be the best and stuff. If you do believe he's going to be an elite goaltender, he's compared to Carey Price, he's compared to Askarov, who went first round last year to Nashville, but considered by a lot to be even better, then this might actually turn out to be one of the safer picks. He's a solid goalie, also playing the SHL already against men, playing for Luleå, where you can see he's got really solid stats. In 16 games, he's got a 1.7 goals against, with a .927 save percentage, 2 shutouts, 10-6. I mean, the dude's 18, playing against men, posting those numbers. He also played for a couple games for Sweden Interworld Juniors, putting up pretty good numbers, I think. 2.4 and a .923. So I said he was risky just because it's a goalie, and usually taking a goalie first round is riskier, but honestly, if you compare him to who's left at this point in the draft, I think he might be one of the safer picks. McKenzie there's got him ranked 14. Everywhere else is ranked between 4 and 14. So really, I think, Chicago getting him at 9, a rebuilding team. You now have your franchise goalie for the future. I feel like they've already got Doc up front with the Brinket, with Strome. On defense, they got Boquist and Bodwin. Why not get a franchise goalie to build around? For me, this pick just makes a lot of sense. And next, you guys number 10 with the San Jose Sharks. So if they're picking number 10, that means they've again missed the playoffs, and they really need to take a risk here to try and make their team good again, as they only have so many years left of Karlsson, Burns, Edward Vlasic, even Couture to an extent of still being, solid players. So I think they take a swing for the fences here and draft Aatu Raty, as he was, like I said, the number 1 ranked player for this draft last year. Maybe he can, prove the haters wrong from this past 12 months that he still deserves to be that number 1 player. I can see based on scouting rankings anywhere from 3 to 8. So getting him at number 10 here I think is actually a really good pick by the Sharks. Again, he's dropped quite a bit. I think not making the Finnish World Junior team definitely hurt him. Playing in the Liga right now for Karpaj, he's got 3 points, 11 games. Again, you got to take it with a grain of salt because 18-year-olds don't play a lot in the men's league in Europe. But I think, he's got that high ceiling. If Sharks miss the playoffs, like I said, they got to try something here. Why not take him? Who knows? Maybe even makes the NHL, as soon as 2021, 2022 season. Just makes a lot of sense for me as a Sharks pick. I'm very curious to see what actually happens with Raty in the draft, because I could see him going as high as somewhere in the top 5, or he could even drop all the way to the top 10. And next up, guys, we have the Anaheim Ducks, who I think are going to get a really good value pick here, taking William Eklund at the 11th spot. Honestly, he's having a really good season so far in the SHL as an 18-year-old. You can see he's not the biggest guy at 5'10", but he can play both center and the wing. Scouting ranks have him anywhere from 1 all the way down to 20. Elite prospects, I mean, at 1 is definitely a hot take for sure. McKenzie there at 6. Little scouting quote here. It says, very smart hockey player who also works very hard, opens up the play for his teammates. Playing the SHL right now, he's got 15 points in 25 games. Again, as an 18-year-old, I think is very impressive. So if he falls all the way to 11, I think, the Ducks are laughing, and they get a really good pick here. Again, as I mentioned many times, this draft's going to be so crazy, so someone's going to fall for sure, and I think one of those guys will be Eklund. Next at number 12, we have the LA Kings taking Daniil Chaika. I think this might be a bit of a reach based on some people's rankings for him, but I do believe he's the best defenseman still available. And if you look at LA Kings prospects, they really could use a defenseman. Their forwards are stacked. Like, they got Turcotte, Byfield, Kiliev, Verlardi. They have so many good guys there, but I think defensively they could use some help. So Chaika here at the 12th spot, it's like a slight reach, but I really don't think it's anything too crazy. Bob McKenzie has him ranked 13, and it looks like he's ranked anywhere from 13 to 24. Again, in my opinion, the best defense is still available. He's Russian, but he's already played in the OHL, so I feel like, the Russian factor shouldn't really hurt him too much in terms of his draft stock. 6'3" there, so pretty big defenseman. Playing in the OHL last year at 34 points, 56 games. KHL this year, he's got a couple points in 9 games. Also played some games in the VHL and MHL. Playing for the World Junior team, didn't have a point, but obviously still got some experience there. So I think, again, just a solid pick here for the Kings. Looking at all the other prospects, I think he's pretty comparable to the forwards available. So since he's the best defenseman available, and I think they need defense, the pick just makes a lot of sense for me. And next year, guys, number 13 are the Columbus Blue Jackets taking Chaz Lucius. Hopefully I pronounced that right. Definitely one of the cooler names in this draft. I feel like Chaz has to be like the evolved form of Chad. So he's a centerman. I feel like they draft him, basically replace Dubois. 6 foot there, so he's pretty big. Scout rankings on him range from 11 to 19, so everyone has him in the top 20. Supposed to be a very good offensive center with awesome hands. Looking at him last year in the U.S. development program, he had 22 points in 32 games, so pretty good numbers. Again, from what I saw, one of his biggest features is just his hands. Supposed to be able to score in a bunch of different ways. So I think, again, Columbus loses Dubois. They could use a center of the future. Why not take Chaz Lucius? Now, next up, number 14, the Philadelphia Flyers, who I think are just going to take the best player available. And at this point, it's got to be Fabian Lysell. He's a Swedish forward playing in SHL. Same team, actually, as Wallstedt. Playing for Luleå there. Looking at the scout rankings on him, looks to be anywhere from 8 to 15. So, consensus is definitely a top 15 pick. He's a good offensive forward. He can score. You can see the quote here: high skilled forward, impressive technical skill, amazing release, scores a lot of goals, loyal team player. I'm sure GMs and stuff are going to love the loyal team player part. So I look at him. He's only got 2 points right now in 13 games. But again, the SHL, you got to take it with a grain of salt. These guys aren't getting enough playing time, stuff like that. The consensus on him is he should turn out to be a solid top 6 player. Add him into an already pretty young Philadelphia forward core. I think they got a lot to look forward to there. And finally, guys, the last pick of my mock draft at number 15 here with the New York Islanders taking Mason McTavish. Again, I would say, Islanders are going to take the best player available here, and I think it's got to be Mctavish. Had a really good year last season for the Petes. He's 17 years old right now, but turning 18 in a few days. Pretty decent sized center as well, 6'1", 196. Ranked anywhere from 9 to 24. Looks like McKenzie is also the highest on him. I feel like Bob McKenzie's rankings don't quite add up with like the rest of the scout rankings. Like the rest of the scout rankings are all a lot closer related than Bob McKenzie's for whatever reason. Now, like I say, he's a good center. You can see he put up 42 points in 57 games last year. He had 3 points in 6 games playing for the under-17 team. I feel like the Islanders are already a pretty solid team, so why not just take, the best guy here? Looking at their roster as well, I'm not really sure who the future number 2 center is behind Barzal. I feel like Mason McTavish could definitely, fill that role. So, a really good pick here to round out the mock draft, but that's me, guys, for this video. Didn't want to go into like the 16 to 31, as a lot of those guys are just not as educated on yet. So I want to wait on making those predictions until you at least know who the playoff teams are going to be in a few months. But that's me it for this video, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, leave that thumbs up in the comment section below. Let me know what you think about your team's pick. Do you like it or do you not? Also, if you guys haven't subscribed yet, make sure you do that. Like half of you watching have not yet subscribed, hit that button. And as always, guys, thanks so much for watching. Have a nice day. Goodbye.